Folks, and back here in the Bossman show, special guest Batt. He was a former Tennessee House representative for Democratic Party candidate, but he's an activist now. He's all about the right things, not the wrong things in Tennessee. He wants to make it better in that state. And I'm gonna still pay taxes in Tennessee. I told him out there. I have a house in Nashville still. I pay taxes in that state, so I'm a taxpayer in that state. So it matters to me what happened to the coach, Jason Shea, my friend. Batt's here to talk about it. Brad, good to meet you, my brother. How you doing, man?
You too. You too. I'm good. How are you? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. I can't complain one bit. I hate to be talk on these kind of conditions after what happened to Coach Jason Shea at East Tennessee State University. It's just sad to see that, Brad. What happened? A guy gets his head coaching job. Things went down last year with social injustice and racial unrest, and he stood with his players and his coaches, exercising their First Amendment rights to kneel, peacefully protest during the anthem.
Yeah.
But Tennessee legislature, Republicans, and the president and AD and the boosters and sponsors, John City, did not support him, and pretty much forced him out and said, "No, you give no more cars, no more money." Because you politically disagreed where our stance on kneeling and the flag. And Brad, Colin Kaepernick, NFL players all told people it's not about the flag. It's about the message and the gesture. And what's the perfect time to do a protest? When everybody's watching you. And what I hate, Brad, is this. When people try to tell me and others like me and yourself how and when to protest. You know, that always irks me, Brad, because when's the right time to protest? When's the right time? There is no right time to protest. You do it when you have the eyeballs and spot to do it, to make your point and make awareness about the mission you want to make aware.
Yeah, that the whole point is to bring attention to an issue, right? And unfortunately, you're spot on. And East Tennessee is behind the rest of the nation. This is a nationwide issue that everyone other than those that are purposefully ignoring it, knows we still in 2021 have race issues in America. The only way you can say we don't is if you're ignoring what's right in front of you, including Black voices. Exactly what you're saying. And that's what we see here. Hell, it was on my Facebook just a few minutes ago. You know, people saying, well, no, they shouldn't protest the flag. Every time Black people protest in America, they are silenced by white voices that don't want to hear it. So at this point, it's very convenient. They know they can't just say shut up. They know they can't say that, right? Because that would be racist. They know it. So they say, well, I don't like the flag. Well, the next protest, they'll have a reason they don't like that one. And then we just continue this cycle of Black people in America saying, hey, this is a problem for our communities, and white people saying, no, it's not. You know, not all of them, but a lot of them that are in power. And as I think you referenced, or maybe right before we went on, talking about some of our local government state senators, 73-year-old Rusty Crowe, you know, wants to pretend. He said this type of activity will not be tolerated.
Yeah.
When you hear that, when you hear an old white man say what he's going to tolerate, how's that hit?
White supremacy trying to tell me what to do. You're trying to be my daddy and say, JR, other Black people, white allies who support JR and Black people, I will not allow you to disrespect my flag, and I don't tolerate you going against my morals and my ideals, which are ancient and irrelevant right now. And so that hits me like you are taking off your hood. You're showing me who you are. And you'll be the same person on here toting your Bible and quoting Jesus or quoting MLK to convenience you on MLK Day, just stand for what he stands for. Like Bill Lee, come to TSU on MLK Day, like he really supported what Dr. King supported. Now, I'm so glad that Reverend William Barber called him out that day in his face about his hypocrisy. Because Tennessee is a poorly ran red state, like Georgia is too. Let's be honest about that.
True.
You know, 10 cares should have been expanded years ago.
Yep.
You know, it's a joke. You know, 10 cares not expanded. Same in Georgia as well. You know, so when I hear Rusty Crowe say, and he said, white players too. It's only one white player on the roster.
Right.
Not
Right.
white players.
Right.
It's one white
Right.
player.
Because they don't want to allow everyone to understand it's about race. They want to pretend it's not, right?
Yes.
So there's white player too. So I'm just saying all players should, but they know what they're doing. So yeah, you're right. About 10 care. If you care, if we want to address some issues, we should address them. You know, unfortunately, the reality is the Tennessee Republican supermajority is a radical extremist group. And I don't say those words lightly. We had a moderate Republican governor under Haslam. It was his Insure Tennessee plan that the extreme GOP legislature rejected. You know, Haslam tried to do some good things. He was Republican. They still rejected him because the legislature is extreme. We still have literally the bust of the first KKK Grand Wizard sitting in the Tennessee State House.
Yes.
Nathan Bedford Forrest. This isn't a guy who was marginally connected to slavery. This isn't a guy who maybe said some racist things. This is literally America's first KKK Grand Wizard.
Yes.
And it sits in the hall of our Tennessee State House. So black legislators like your friend, Representative Dixie, have to walk by that. Every Tennessean, every black Tennessean that walks in there hoping to get a representative to address some of their issues walks by this bust put up in 1973, the year Coach Shea and I were both born, by the way. I just looked that up earlier. And for then that entire time, my lifetime, 48 years, this bust to this KKK Grand Wizard sits in a place of prominence in the house where we purport to make laws for equal justice for everyone. How could, and it's been a fight for the last couple of years to get rid of it. It's still sitting there today. And I think the question is, if this legislature can't do the simplest of things and say, we're not going to put a bust up to a KKK, America's first Grand Wizard, that's a simple one. How are you ever going to address some of the systemic racism problems in America and in Tennessee? How can we ever trust you with complex problems when y'all can't even do the simple ones? That's the simple one.
Exactly. And, you know, it's obviously a problem because, like, look here, as you and I both know, Tennessee needs expansion of health care and Medicaid. Tennessee needs a $15 minimum wage. But unfortunately, and I'm going to say it because I keep it real, the poor people in East Tennessee, the hills of West Tennessee, and outside of Nashville and Memphis, they just are been bamboozled by the big lie that, hey, because, you know, you're white and these black and brown people trying to take stuff from you. That's not true. This has been the Southern strategy for years, to divide poor whites and poor blacks and poor Latinos and Hispanics from coming together, because they come together collectively, they're out of power. And they use that whole way of race as a way to keep them at bay. So, I don't want them to have my stuff. And I'm like, you need health care. Why are your rural hospitals closing? Why people like Johnson City Honda allowed to disparage Coach Shane's coaches because of their warped racist views, but will tell you in a heartbeat they love Jesus. I wonder, who are you praying to? What Jesus do you love? Because if you love the Jesus I love, you ain't praying to the same guy based on what you're doing.
Yeah, but we just passed a bill that's going to make the Bible the official book of Tennessee, you know. But at the same time, I mean, I'd like them to open it every now and then, you know, talk about feeding the poor and taking care of, you know, widows and children and making sure, you know, but somehow those parts of the Bible, I mean, I grew up in church and I've been to Bible study and I've led them and I've read them and the whole thing. So they don't fool me, but we have a lot of politicians in the legislature that are willing to hold up a Bible, but they've never cracked it. But, you know, let's talk about the Coach Shea situation specifically, because right now what's going on because Tennessee politics, clearly, I ran for House. I can talk politics all day, but I could talk sports a little bit too. They're trying to fool us right now as if we can't see with our own eyes what's happening. Coach Shea was a first-time Division I head coach. He has a long record of being an assistant, including many years at Tennessee when their program was doing really well. He has this long track record. I think it's 5 years. He was an assistant here at ETSU before Forbes left. So we have this great men's basketball team that we're very excited about, and they had their tournament berth stolen because of COVID a year ago. They were 30-4. I mean, if like, I don't know about you, but I was excited. You know,
I was. I love Forbes.
They're like,
Steve is my guy.
Prime to make a deep run, right? Who doesn't love seeing like a mid-major make a deep run a tournament and knock off a couple of big-time schools? And they had that taken from them, you know. And then Steve Forbes left. Why? Because that's what coaches do, right? Isn't that if you're a coach, if you're an assistant, you try to move up until you get that head coaching job, right?
Yes.
And you build a program, and then at some point you might get hired away because you've built, and that's exactly what Steve Forbes did, built a winning program. Now he's at Wake Forest, right? So here comes first-time Jason Shea, and you're going to tell me this guy that's been assistant for all these years, after 1 year as an NCAA head coach, Division I, in a program he's already been in for 5 years, where he cares about these players, where they say he treats them like family, where that you've created a culture in this basketball team. You're going to tell me 1 year into a 3-year contract he just resigns? Come on, don't lie to us. Just be honest about it. He didn't walk in there and just resign. We all can read between the lines. There's pressure here. And so the owner of JC Honda has already admitted that they pulled the cars. The players knelt, and actually they've been doing it for a while, right? But then it got in the paper. And then so, you know, people got mad. It's something they weren't even at that game, and they got mad that this happened, and they're just mad. And so I'm going to pull the cars. I'm going to pull the cars from the coaches. This is what he's admitted to. He didn't like the kneeling, so he's going to pull the cars. Why? What does that accomplish?
It shows who you are.
That's literally the supremacy. It's trying to hold your power over someone else. Why don't you try to learn from this coach? Do you think he doesn't know his players better than you might? You know, exactly. Johnson City Honda owner. Do you think he may not understand? Why don't you listen? Why is it that we always have to listen to the person who's got the money and the power when their opinions are ignorant of the situation? And they're trying to say what these old white men are trying to say what these young black men are protesting for, but they won't listen to the young black men. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why we can't listen when someone's saying, here's something I feel so strongly about, I'm going to kneel. They know that's going to cause controversy, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the Colin Kaepernick happened 4 years ago. This isn't new. They know. And so they say, I still feel so strongly about it, I'm going to do it. And then these guys like Joe at Johnson City Honda won't even listen to these young men. I find that really sad.
Well, Brad, I'll share some with you right now. There's certain schools in Tennessee, I won't say it on live, but I can't cover their team because I don't stand for the anthem. Certain schools, it's a state school in Tennessee. I won't say the name of it live, but I can't cover their games anymore because I won't stand for the. I was asked to stand for the anthem. I said I don't do that. I sat through the anthem, and it wasn't appreciated. And I was pretty much told I'm no longer welcome to cover their teams because I don't respect
because you white America wants to demand out of you love for this country regardless of how the country's treated you. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair.
How dare you, how dare you say something bad about America? How dare you say my experience has been this? How dare you? Right? And I think the opportunity here, I want you to stand for the anthem, right? But I don't want to tell you to. We should all collectively say, let's fix these problems so I can stand next to you because we can say, yeah, now we do have justice and equality for all. But that's not where we are.
Exactly. And my thing is this, I've been told, Brad, I need to assimilate. I need to get with the program. And I'm like, from older white men who I've respected at one point in time, I was told to pray about it. And I'm like, well, let me tell you this. It's been 400 years and prayer ain't changed a damn thing. Okay? I said, you put your head. I was told to read Romans 8. I will not. It's not going to change what I'm talking about. It takes people like you, my former white friend, to speak up. Because what is it? It's not the words of my enemies, silence of my friends. And all you want to be silent and read your Bible. That's not helping push the issue. because you don't want to cause a controversy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, then what is there to discuss? You say you understand, you hear me out, but then you don't do nothing about it. I'm like, you're not being for real, because I'm willing to put my name on it, put my money where my mouth is. Same I'm doing like I'm doing for Coach Shay right now. I'm about it. If wrong is wrong, I don't care what it is. Wrong is wrong. I'm gonna speak on wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call out wrong.
Yep.
But don't vilify me for speaking my truth based on my life experiences.
Yeah.
I grew up poor and marginalized. I grew up in the hood. I know what it's about. I know what bad policy is and how it affects you.
Yeah.
I've lived it.
Yeah.
So let's. And when I hear my white friends tell me this, I'm like, I said, you don't even know the half. So if you don't want to even open your ears, don't give me what you think it is. I'm telling you, as a 34-year-old Black man, what life is and what life isn't.
Yeah. 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 And why can we not listen? Because I'll never know, but I can sit here with you. The least I could do is listen to your story, right? Because as a white man, I'll never know what it's like to be Black in America. The only way I can understand your experience a little bit is to listen. But I think we have too many people that I don't know why they don't want to address this issue. I don't know why they're not more empathetic. I don't know why they can't get past the idea that their white experience in America might be drastically different than someone else's Black experience. I don't think it takes a deep reading of history or news to understand. Like, it can't be that everyone else is wrong. I mean, we just saw today Major League Baseball pulled out of Atlanta of the All-Star game, right? Was it Atlanta or somewhere in Georgia?
Yep, Atlanta.
Okay. Is all of Major Baseball wrong? Major League Baseball,
and they're real conservative.
Wrong. They just want to be woke, right? They're just virtue signaling all the crap you hear. They're just we have a political war going on right now where Republicans are trying to take away votes from people of color, to the point in Georgia where they're making it illegal to hand out water and food to voters in line. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but someone might not know this. And why? Because they rigged the polling system so that if you live in the white suburbs, you breeze in, you vote, you leave, you're in and out in 10, 15 minutes. But if you're in a Black community, you wait in line for 6, 7, 8 hours. In what world? They could have passed laws to say, we're going to make more polling places. We're going to ensure voting never takes anyone in America more than 30 minutes. We're going to do these things. No, they said, we're gonna make it illegal to hand out water.
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine waiting in 8 hours to vote. I have never waited that long. Some people
10 into during the primary in June. It was raining that day in Atlanta. It was raining. People there for 8, 9 hours in the rain could have got sick in the middle of COVID. But Brian Kemp, the purge pimp Brian Kemp, the cheat himself, did it. And the machines were down that day too. They got to go to court, get it hours extended. So he plays with the machines. He purged you without you telling you. And people talking about Brad Raffensperger. He only did what he had to do because he's on tape with Donald Trump. He's no hero. He's no saint. He's all for it. Gabe Sterling too. All of them, they're all about suppressing the vote. These are the rules, Brad, that they pass themselves.
Right.
And we use their rules and outnumber them. So therefore, they change the rules again.
It's the same thing. We're repeating it over and over, right? It's a poll tax, but it's a new one.
Yes.
It's a new version, same as the old one. And they always want to talk about respect. And so Black players kneeling for justice is disrespectful. You know, if you get angry, that's disrespectful. But these old white people go behind closed doors and create laws that are disrespectful to freedom, to justice, to equality, to our Constitution, to everything we pretend to hold dear. But they do it in a, they don't curse and they don't raise their voice. They're just very civilized, right? And they go in and they write laws that take away rights from people. That's not respectful. So I don't, it doesn't hit with me very much. I see this a lot in the Tennessee legislature when they get called out, they kind of have their, they clutch their pearls and like, well, I take offense to that and, have a real like moment, like they're going to, oh my dear. when they get called out for things they're doing that hurt people. And, unfortunately, they just don't get it. They don't see it. The Rusty Crows of the world, the Lumbergs, whether purposefully or out of ignorance, they don't get it. And I'm not sure if it's purposeful. It feels like it sometimes, because I don't think it's that hard to learn, to listen, to read.
They don't want to learn. They don't want to learn.
Yeah.
They don't want to. That's what
so
they don't care.
Yeah. So look at the opportunity right here we had, unfortunately, with Dr. Brian Nolan at ETSU, the president. This is an educational opportunity right in front of us. And what did we do? I know you're educating the students at ETSU, but you're the university in East Tennessee, and this was an educational opportunity for our entire community. And if you had the guts, you could have stood up but instead, and I watched a lot of the Zoom conferences with Nolan and Lundberg especially, and others on committees, and Lundberg and them, they have a lot to say when it's on committee. And Lundberg said, that's like flipping the flag the bird. No, it's not. He just reframed that so he could decry it. He reframed kneeling, which has always been a sign of respect. I mean, it better be. I knelt down to propose to my wife. I better go apologize if that was disrespectful, right? Of course it's not. Mm-hmm. It's completely respectful. You kneel to show respect. You kneel when a referee went down the game the other day. I don't know if you saw that, Burt Smith. The other people knelt by him. Like when someone's in help, you kneel by when a player's injured.
We play football field, and get injured. We kneel with our helmets off.
A knee. That's not out of disrespect. That is the pinnacle of respect. But when black voices start being heard, the white racists, they don't want them heard. So they're going to find some way to try to twist that narrative to say that their action that we all can see as respectful.
Yes.
And so I'm so tired of that. I mean, you and I both know with Colin Kaepernick and who's the Green Beret, Nate Boyer.
Yeah.
Right. They sat down as men. And I mean, Nate Boyer sent him a letter and said, I don't like what you're doing. I want to talk to you about it. And they sat down as men and hashed it out. And then they came away with a greater understanding, to the point where Nate said he's not going to kneel, but he's going to stand by Colin while Colin kneels. To me, that's solidarity. That's, exactly. Like, okay, I'm not going to take your exact approach, but I see what you're doing and I see who you are and I understand a little bit about you. And Colin Kaepernick said, well, I don't want to be I want to make sure that, I don't want anyone to be offended. I just want to, the attention to be brought to Black lives and to justice. And so they understood each other. So we had this moment here 4 years later in East Tennessee, because we're always a little behind. We're trying to catch up, right? We had that moment. This was our moment. And so far right now, we've blown it. We've blown it. We don't have a greater understanding. We haven't listened to black voices. And now we've literally run young black men out of this town. Because why would they stay? They see their coach being run off. Mm-hmm. Why? That was probably their lifeline.
Yes.
I mean, so why they're going to stay in this town? If they're going to run off a middle-aged white coach, if I was a young black man, I'd be thinking, well, what are they going to do to me?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't blame them for leaving. And what have we learned?
Nothing. And all these years, and Brad, what I've said on this show before, previously is that race, this is what the conservatives do and Republicans do. They twist their racism up behind the patriotism. They use patriotism as the way to cover their racism. Oh, we're about the flag. It's about the flag. It's about the country. The country you love was built on the backs of my people. Mm-hmm. Like my ancestors did not ask to come here and get brought. They didn't ask to be brought to Georgia, but they were.
Right.
They was not asked to. They was fine over in Sierra Leone and in Ghana, where my roots trace back to. They were not trying to come over to South Georgia.
Yeah.
And migrate to Macon, then to Stockbridge, and then to Atlanta. That was not the part of the plan. Mm-hmm. And when you hide behind the flag and patriotism to do your racist tropes and your racism, I reject the notion, because I know that the flag is used as a way to just be racist. It's the cover and the shield. But the NFL, all like even the NBA owns to a degree, the same thing. And I reject the notion. It's like you love the black culture, you monetize the black culture, but you don't love black people. And same with me in advertising. Like, since I'm black owned media, I don't get the same rates as I was black targeted media. I catch it in advertising. If I went to a third party agency that was for black targeted media, I would get my money for ads than I do get going out there myself. So systemic racism is in every facet of life. And they have guys like yourself, Brad, Coach Shea, Carmen Masterello with Sienna, people who actually care about young black men and being an advocate and allies. It's amazing to see. This is where America can be if the majority of people get on board with that. But there are the last stand, I call it, the last call of these racists who are getting older and aging out, but they still have power of preventing us from progressing forward. That's why they're doing the laws in Georgia, Tennessee. You got Arkansas, Alabama, because they want to hold on. It's their last stand before the dam breaks. You're out of here.
Yeah. And they don't realize the strength of all of us coming together is so much more powerful than what the white supremacy you're trying to hold on to. That's shameful and ignorant and goes against progress. Exactly what you're saying. I think you're right about black men, especially in this country, how we treat black men. And I've thought back because I am very much an outsider in my family, extended family. I come from a white conservative family in the South. I was born in New Orleans, and I see things differently than them, including on issues of race, several things, but on race. And I think part of it for me is that, I refereed basketball for a long time in Houston for 15 years, high school. I loved it. I refereed college for 10, Division I for 7, in the Southland Conference and Summit League conferences like the SoCon, with ETSU, schools like that. And but I loved high school basketball too. And I've refereed all over Houston. And I refereed with a whole lot of black men, officials. And I saw a whole lot of black players and black coaches. And I think America is still so segregated that I think a lot of people don't have experience being around other people. And I think that especially holds true here for East Tennessee. I've had that experience. So I see all different sorts of black men, right? But I think so much of white America in East Tennessee, we have this problem. We're so segregated. It's so white. The only black men they know is maybe what they see on TV or on the news, and so they stereotype tens of millions of people into like this one idea instead of realizing that men are men. Just we have a diversity amongst black men that are different personalities and different things, and we're still working our way out of that. And you can see it now. America is just like starting to see black men in certain jobs that they were withheld before, they were prevented from having before, and all that coming out. And so, I mean, here in East, we've got to wake up. I don't know how we do it. I don't know how to kind of take that experience and get people to understand, to see outside their bubble a little bit, and to see that, to see other people as human. I don't know how to make that happen. I don't, and it's very, it's just really disturbing that we're still judging people and dismissing voices when people are crying out for help and saying our community needs help. And I think dismissing those voices is so harmful, and it's hard to believe we're still there.
Yeah, and you know what, Bray? To me, it's like I expected. Now I when I don't get help, it's like I expected. When I do get help, I'm kind of shocked, because it's in my career, I've tried to break down barriers, but I'm told I'm too loud or I'm too radical. I need to tamp things down, how I criticize the other side. I said, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not really a Democrat or a Republican. I'm a black man. So I vote black interests versus white nationalism. So that's how I vote. Okay.
Yeah.
And majority of times than not, it falls on the D side, the blue side. Because ours not doing nothing to help black interests. Besides, unless you're rich already and you want to go there for tax break. So I vote based on black interest versus white nationalism. Because in Georgia, outside of Atlanta, it's the deep South again. Yeah. Outside of Nashville and Memphis, Tennessee's the deep South. You know, Alabama, Birmingham, Huntsville, the Black Belt around Montgomery, it's the deep South. Jackson, Mississippi. So in the South, you have these town centers, these one or two pockets of where it's urbanized. The rest of it is just the deep rural South for those same Jim Crow mindset is just regurgitated over and over again, replicated all these years. And you can't go there and break that generational curses because they've been so grounded in those thought process. Like when we went out in Georgia campaigning for Warnock and Ossoff, them small counties in Georgia, you know, it was a shock, Brad. Some things I heard, you know, about, oh, you look very nice, and you know, thought you would be a thug. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like just outwardly saying. When somebody said son to me, I'm like, hold on, you don't say son. That's let's not say son. Or boy, I said I'm here on third party business, but I'm still JR, and I'll tell you how I feel. Let's not do that. You know, so
even the compliments have that racial undertones, right? Oh, you look nice. I thought you would have been this. I mean, like that speaks to the mindset.
Yes.
Of I'm going to categorize all black people in this segment, and so I'm surprised when someone doesn't fit my stereotype. We've got to do away with that mindset, you know, and that's why I think it's so shameful that people are dragging Jason Shea's name through the mud. I mean, I don't know, you know, Jason, you've talked to him. I've never talked to him. I don't know him personally. I just look at it from the outside from basketball. Like, this guy looks like a conscientious coach. You know, I always like coaches that stood up for their players and fought for them.
Yes.
I mean, this guy checks all the boxes. He's a guy, if you're a parent of a son going to play, he seems like the type of coach you would want to entrust your son to go play for. And so for these people, for you know, the people from JC Honda and other organizations, and my inbox, you know, rumors are flying around here, and the light will be shown on who kind of had a hand in all this stuff. For them to disparage him and not to step back and think, well, here's this coach that's been in this program for so many years. Maybe he has some insight that I don't. And to sit down and listen, they don't want to listen. They just want their voice to be heard. They want their opinion to be heard. They want black people to do what they tell them to do, which is stand for our flag. Don't protest when it's inconvenient for me. Don't take me out of my white comfort. I just want to come watch a basketball game, and you owe me that. I don't want to have to think outside of that. But if you're a black man, you don't have a choice to never think outside of that because it's always present in your life. And I don't know why some people can't get that you don't have that option. So I guess it's a little inconvenient for them. Somehow it hurts their feelings that someone's kneeling during the anthem. They think it stands for something else or it means something different to them. I think instead of demanding that someone else do something that you want them to do, which is the very opposite of freedom, we should come together and say, how can we fix these problems? Then we can all stand. So until we can all stand, we got a problem, whether you're forcing people to stand or not. So, you know, and Dr. Nolan and these others kind of want to push the problem out of the limelight. They don't want to be inconvenienced by the controversy.
Exactly. Well,
that's not solving a damn thing. That's not solving anything. That's solving your goals, maybe, of Brian Nolan. He probably, like an assistant coach, wants to go to a bigger university at some point, right? So he's probably, you know, I don't know what he's doing, but I can kind of guess. Is he kissing the hands of those that he thinks he needs to work his way up? You know, he didn't get that UT gig a few years ago, but he might still have his eye on it, right? So he doesn't want this controversy. But that, to me, isn't real leadership. Real leadership is sitting down and saying, here's the thing, I'm going to go to the community and I'm going to take the backlash To me, that's what would have been great to see out of a university president, to say, to back up his coach the same way Coach Shea backed up his players. Because to me, that's a leader. The coach standing up saying, no, I'm going to take this heat. Because the easy thing for Shea would have been to do to say, no, we're not going to do that, right?
Easy.
We're not going to kneel. I'm gonna get this 3 year. I'm gonna put my goals and my aspirations ahead of it. But I mean, to me, that shows he cares deeply.
Yes.
He put it all on the line, and he paid the price for it. And his players are paying the price. That's wrong. Just that is wrong. Besides everything that they're kneeling for, we've got a lot wrong. But this is wrong. Added.
Nolan and Carter prove why they're kneeling right now. Their actions just proved why they kneeled. Like, hey, you made the point for them again, idiots.
That's it. It's the same thing. We're repeating. We didn't learn from Kaepernick 4 years ago. We didn't learn. We haven't made progress. It's the same thing. And this idea that, you know, we got a lot of people. The guy I ran against, he got primary, Van Huss. He was one of these guys that, a white guy that said, if you bring up race, that's racism, right? So Justin Jones, I don't know if you know him out of Nashville. He's led a lot of protests in the plaza, which our legislature then turned around and made camping. I don't know how much you're up on Tennessee politics. They made camping illegal.
Yes, yeah. Because I said I have a house there. I have a house. I still know. I have a house there. I keep out track of it.
So Justin Jones helped with these protests, led these protests. They were out there for, I think, 60 days. And so instead of, you know, going down and doing your job as governor and talking to these people, listening to them, setting up a meeting, they refuse all that and they pass a law, a felony. So they're going to not only arrest people and use the judicial system to unfairly target people fighting for their rights, they're going to make it so, don't miss this point, so that they can't vote. If they get convicted of a felony, that's not an accident. So we have all this going on, and it's the same thing on a smaller scale of, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to silence your voices. I don't want to fix hard problems. This is inconvenient for me, or I don't think it's a problem, so I'm going to ignore it. So it's the same thing going on in Nashville that now we have going on at ETSU. And how are we better for it? Just from a sports standpoint, is anyone going to tell me that next year ETSU men's basketball team is going to be anything other than shambles? I mean, they'll find someone to coach that was that.
They'll be terrible because guys don't want to come there. And no matter who they hire, recruiting there is ruined forever.
Yeah.
They can't get no good players. Like, no, you're a racist. We're not coming there.
Yeah.
You know, because I have no idea why people go to Ole Miss. See, I don't know how young black players go to Ole Miss, but they do. But that's the SEC. But you're in the SoCon, ETSU, Johnson City.
That's right.
Nobody's gonna come to them as I say have to. Let's shoot the only offer they have. They're not coming.
Yeah, and the kids know. I mean, they're better at the internet than anybody, and so you're not going to bury this. You're going to look 5-10 years from now. Any player that's looking at school, this is going to come up. This is. You know, it's a tragic commentary on our city, and I don't, you know, it's shameful. It's truly it's shameful. I'm shocked that we're not farther along than this. But you know, I guess in some ways the history is way more recent than we want to admit, and maybe that's part of it. JR, is that I think there's a deep shame in white America, because we know what we did. You know, I didn't do it, right? Like you hear this thing, white people say, well, I didn't have slaves. Oh, okay, great. I did, but America still did.
America did it.
Country still did. And it took us, you know, I'm from New Orleans. Ruby Bridges, the iconic photo that we've all seen of the little black girl, 6 years old, going into school, escorted by 4 federal marshals because that was the only way to keep her safe. That was in 1960. My parents were 10 years old. My parents who are still alive. Ruby Bridges is still alive. She's 4 years younger than my parents, not my grandparents, not my great-grandparents. This isn't ancient history. That's my hometown. My hometown did that. And we didn't at that point say like, okay, the Supreme Court ruled that the schools are integrated. That's that then. No. At every point when black people in America have tried to go for justice, white racists in America have lost their minds and tried to claw it back. Teachers wouldn't teach, parents pulled their kids out of school, all because a 6-year-old little girl wanted to be educated. We should be ashamed that we put her through that. And she is 66 years old today. That's not ancient history. And we didn't end racism by letting that little black girl go to kindergarten under protest from white racists. We still have problems that we've got to unwind, including generational wealth that people have been locked out of, property that's been confiscated, the opportunity to own land denied, the opportunity to vote denied. And then today to look at like the Georgia legislature and the Tennessee legislature and these grasps for white power that they're still trying to make in response to black people gaining a little bit of freedom is just reprehensible. And so we can't, so it isn't the basketball and the firing of Coach Shea and all this is a microcosm of everything bigger that's going on in America, right?
Yes.
And so we've got to fight back on this because otherwise we lose those rights. And I think standing up for justice for someone else is the most American thing we could do, right? It's if we want to say we love America and we love that flag, stand up for someone else. It's easy to stand up for yourself. It's the easiest thing in the world to fight for your own, what you want, right? But stand up for someone else, especially white people who are in a position of power and privilege. And you don't have to worry about the things that black people face every day when they try to get a business loan, or like you're talking about in your business, trying to navigate the media as a black man, and like these things that we just don't see it. It doesn't happen to us. So the least we could do is listen to the stories, I think, of you, these young men, and collectively black Americans say, okay, we're going to try to understand what you're going through. And then we're going to try to help.
Like, Brad, I shouldn't have to send a white face to talk for me and I come in the clothes. I'd rather use that trick, Brad, to get stuff done. I shouldn't have to do that. But to get what I need to get done, I have to use sometimes a white face, would be a woman or a male, to do it for me, and I come in as the clothes. Or I don't use my full first name just to hide and go by the JR to kind of wedge in. So these are things that I have to do just to survive. That I had to learn how to get by, and this is America. And now people say all the time, we're building this. No, this is who we are. We need to accept who we are. And yes, we need to be better, but this is who we are right now. That's why I get this. President Biden says we're building this. I'm like, no, this is who we are, President Biden. You know this.
Yeah.
This
isn't new.
We have to be better. We have to be better, yes, but this is who we've been for years.
The question is, who do we want to be? Who do we want to be? Not who we are. You're right on. That is who we are. We're always finding some group to hate. Why? We all want to sit down with our family and eat, and our friends, and have a job, and have community, and do meaningful things, and have, like, we just want to live our life. Everyone, we're all the same. We're different, but at our core, there is power in understanding how similar we are.
Yes.
But we have these people. You touched on it earlier. I mean, in Appalachia, it's very true that we have a lot of poor white people that have been locked out of education and healthcare and wages and and I think part of the problem in our politics today is that it's just easier to get a poor white man to hate a poor black man than it is to solve the problems. And they do it while they're robbing us blind. These guys in power. Rusty Crowe's been in office for 30 damn years. He was a Democrat at some point. He changed when the wind shifted in Tennessee. He changed to be a Republican. He's just keeping his seat. He's nice and fat and healthy and got his position of power and making money, and he's not trying to do a damn thing for anyone. I just have no respect for how lazy Republican politics have gotten. It's race baiting. It's creating controversy. It's rage inducing. Like they drum up these ridiculous culture wars on everything from Dr. Seuss to Mr. Potato. They do it. Liberals don't care. I am accidental liberal. I think I wasn't even trying to be a liberal, but I have a lot of progressive friends and liberal friends. No one cares about Mr. Potato Head. No one no one's outraged at that stuff. We're outraged at human rights issues. We're outraged at the injustices we see. But the right creates this ridiculous war where they pit people against one another. And I'm not sure, you may have insight into the way out of that. I'm not sure how to fix that. That's, I ran for office, but my goals aren't just political. Like, I think we need a healing. I think we need a revolution of loving one another, and really and the only way you love someone is to understand them and where they come from.
Exactly. I'll give you an example. My radio show. I talk to people all over the coach, all over the nation, from Eastern Washington all the way over to Freddie Dickinson, or up to Siena, or down in Florida. These coaches in Texas. But we also in the comedy, come on my show, we have a great conversation. Me, a young black dude. A lot of these coaches are white in these country areas, but we connect over basketball and find a common ground on basketball and build a rapport off of basketball, sharing stories off the Zoom call, after the interview ends. So my method is using the power of the platform to bring people together to answer tough questions, ask tough questions about experiences, and hear your experiences, tell you my experiences, and figure out where we meet. Like, I talked to Coach this week. He talked about how he was from a small, poor city in Wisconsin, and now he's a head coach. I talked about how I grew up in the poor area of Atlanta. Look at me having a radio show. We're on a show together, talking about both our successes. I said, look, that's what we want to strive to. So my method is just talking, listening to understand. Not listening to debate, listen to understand. And let's make it a call to action together to get others to move on their hardened bias and stereotypes and move on to something better. Because I say all the time, Steve Kerr said this too, racism is a white problem. I can't solve racism on JR's own. I need my white brothers and sisters to help me solve it. Talk to the other white people who hear them more they will hear from me. Because I'm looking at it as a threat, not as a friendly face. I'm looking at it as an enemy in some cases. So I need my white brothers and sisters to help me in the fight against this. So that's how I see it, Brad. Just come together, more mobilized, organizing people together, having summits where we just have honesty with each other and listening and understand where the mindset, where the backgrounds come from. We can dispel myths and move ahead from that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I've heard the phrase, saying that black people have expended enough labor for America. It's not, we can't demand more work from black people to fix racism. I agree it's a white problem, and white people need to talk to white people, because there's nothing, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, there's nothing I can tell you about racism that you don't already know.
Correct.
But there is no, I could read all the books, I could do and I could say,
I live racism every day, I live it.
Right. So I could read it and be like, oh, that's really, oh man, this is revolutionary. You'd be like, yeah, I live that, Brad. I can't tell you about your experience. And that, so I think it is incumbent on white people to recognize this problem and to challenge in those, those white workplaces and white organizations and stuff, when people who are racist say stuff, and too often they get away with it. I think it needs to be challenged. I think, this guy like Joe, the owner of Johnson City Honda, and these they need to be challenged.
Yes.
A lot of them don't think they're being racist, but they are. Their actions are racist. You're silencing the voices of black players and black voices standing up for justice. That is the definition, the white supremacy, using your power over someone else. That's y'all are doing. Now, I'm not saying you're white supremacists, but your behavior meets the definition. So if you, Joe of Johnson City Honda, if you don't want to be labeled as a white supremacist, you got to stop doing white supremacist things.
Yes.
It's simple as that. So, and you know what? I don't think these guys like Rusty Crowe and Senator Lundberg, I don't think they want to be understood. I think they are just fueling and fanning the flames and stoking the flames of this divide. Because when they talked to Dr. Nolan, they had a lot to say when they were on camera. But then I know you saw this when Justin Canoe of the Tennessee Holler got him in the elevator doing an interview. Oh, they shut up real quick. When they had tough questions being asked of them. You know, when they've got the floor where no one can challenge them and they can just say ridiculous things, that they say them. But when they're challenged a little bit and held their feet to the fire, they shut up. So that tells me they don't have sincerely held beliefs. They just know that this is a political wedge issue that they can use to keep their base pissed off. And if their white base in Tennessee is pissed off at black people or ETSU or the coach or whoever, then they can keep not expanding Medicare, Medicaid. They can keep wages low. They can try to do what they're doing right now and force this right to work into our state constitution, which is just a gift to every huge corporation out there. Like they're doing all this terrible stuff, but this is what's in the news because they're just keeping people pissed off at each other. And so Tennessee's hurting, as all of us are hurting. So, I mean, that's the message, talk about solidarity. Like, we have to join together and stand up for one another in solidarity because that's how we're going to make progress. And right now, Tennessee is being left behind on a lot of issues, and this is one of them.
Well, Brad, I'll be standing up for Coach Shea even more on this show, and because I told you multiple times, I have a house in Nashville still. I pay taxes in that state. Yeah. So guess what? It's my problem too. So I'm going to be banging the drum as well about these fools in the legislature as well. Hey, you need me to bang the drum? Let me know. I will bang the drum. I will let them get them away with it because I know my politics. I'm a sports guy. I love politics as well. I know my politics. My master's degree is in public policy, so you can't fool me. I know how the cake is made, suckers.
Well, and all these guys get ideas. I mean, I'm concerned about what's going on in Georgia, even though I don't have a house there and I don't live there, because it's injustice. And so if injustice is going on there, then how can we have justice for everyone everywhere else? And these guys get ideas. If the GOP here in Tennessee sees that the Georgia GOP gets away with voter suppression, I guarantee you they're going to do it. They will copy them.
Oh yeah,
I guarantee you. So that's why it's important that we stand up for each other, even if we are, a couple states away or one state away anyway.
Well, Brad, I'm one with you, brother. Hey, Brad, thank you for your time, but this was fun. I love talking politics and sports, and I think we're talking about Coach Shea, but supporting Coach Shea, man. I appreciate you, folks. The hashtag is support Coach Shea on Twitter. Hashtag it support Coach Shea. He's a great man. Had him on my show multiple times. Love chatting with him. He didn't deserve this, but we're gonna bang the drum for him. Coach Shea's a great man. His players are great young men. ETSU, you're wrong. You're terrible for this. And I'm going to make sure you feel the heat from this show and other people. We're going to be on you, Nolan, Carter, all y'all. None of y'all off the hook. Joe, Johnson, Honda, I got you too. I'll invite you on my show to talk to me. But you don't want this heat, though. You don't want the heat. He don't want JR's heat, though. He don't want my heat. You don't want it.
Maybe he could learn something. He should. If he come in with a little bit of an open mind, he could. But as long as you're just trying to get people to understand what your belief is and force them to do what you want and using money as a power tool, that's not going to work. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and I'm sure Coach Shea is going to end up somewhere where he's appreciated. And I'm sorry that it wasn't ETSU. It's shameful that this has happened, and we've got to fix this stuff.
Yes, indeed. Well, folks, that's Brad Batt here on the Bossman Show. Check him out on Twitter. He's a great follow.